Yes, hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard DFS show for week 4 already of the NFL season. Can't believe we're at week 4 already. This is going to be a quick fire show tonight where you've got Ali and Kev, the main two, the best two from the wildcard, guiding you through the slate. We're guiding you through the slate of obviously over on DraftKings. We're going to be highlighting our key plays for both cash and them GPPs. So without further ado, we're going to jump into our cash lineups. Kev, I'm not even going to introduce ourselves. We don't need that. All we need to do is introduce our plays because that is what the people are here for. So how are you playing cash this week?
Yeah, nearly forgot my hat to make out we don't record on the same night, but it's on now and we're going to be getting some money for you this week. Cash. It's all about the sexy names that are performing well in your league. In your green matchups, you're thinking really simple here. So Jaden Daniels, who was absolutely ice cold on Monday Night Football. Kyler Murray, who's had a fantastic start season. They're two names that stand out as really logical, easy plays at the position at really good prices. I'm sure we'll come on to them a little bit later on in the show. And then looking at some of your core building pieces in your lineup, Saquon Barkley, who's killing it as running back 1 on the season. Kyron Williams coming off that massive performance against the 49ers. Sorry, Max. We had to get him in there because you've abandoned us tonight. Jamar Chase on the back of his big breakout game this week. And Marvin Harrison Jr., someone that great matchup. I think they're playing the 32 ranked team against wide receivers. And obviously he's got that sexy name. His dad's sexy name. Not going to mention Joanne Jennings. I think he might be popular. 5,600. People will be chasing what happened last week. I think it'd actually be funny if the people that weren't on him last week get on him this week and then he throws a dud in there. A bit like my call with Rashid Shaheed last week. But yeah, tight end, it's an absolute joke. How to attack in cash, I'll just sort of probably aim at the lower mid-price guys. Pat Frymuth, Tyler Conklin, Mike Gesicki. It's too risky to throw in big bucks at tight end at the high end unless you've got enough to give you a shot at someone like a Bowers, and hopefully that comes off for you this week. Defense-wise, Steelers at 3,300. They're playing the Colts, but I just think more about the Steelers. An amazing defense, someone that TJ Watt is playing absolutely fantastic. He's always getting the highlights on Red Zone. And look, if you listen to last night's Dynasty show, you know that Ant Richardson's got a lot to prove. There's going to be a lot of people seeing how he performs over the next few weeks. But I think just with cash, really, it's looking at last week's big performers and getting involved on these guys that have produced really well. There will be chalky plays, but in cash, that's what you want.
Yeah, completely agree. Love all the picks, Kev. You're looking at guys that we don't know. We don't absolutely care about the ownership of these players. We want the guys that are gonna, they're gonna go off, or not exactly go off. You just need stability at the position. You need that guaranteed production. You can't have any zeros like Rashid Shaheed. You just need stability, and you need to get to that famous cash line. So yeah, for me, I will be taking the exact same advice as you, Kev. I'm not paying up a tight end position right now. We're famously, I mean, last season I was absolutely happy to pay up at the tight end position. You had like Sam Laporta, Trey McBride that were hitting big values, especially down the stretch, that they were guaranteeing you double-digit points every single week. They were worth the investment, but it's absolutely far too risky right now. It's someone that I'm just not going myself, not stretching to any of the top guys. I'm looking, like you say, the middle tier. Slightly below the middle tier. I'm trying to save cash where I can so I can pay up other positions where I know there's going to be guaranteed volume. So I've been I'm not going to toot my own horn here, Kev. Well, actually, I am going to toot my own horn. I've been really good for cash so far this season. I've been focusing 75% of my lineups have been cash. And the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm looking at predictive, consistent volume. So I've basically been building my cash lineups on 3 running back builds. So the running back in the flex position as well. 90% of my builds have been this format, and it's been successful. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You're looking at cash lineups, you're looking to try and get to 130 points. That seems to be the target, where if you get over that mark, you cash. If you get way over it, absolutely fine. But you're trying to get to 130 points. So I'm trying to choose 3 volume-based running backs. And the likes of Alvin Kamara has been doing really well. Kyron Williams, Jordan Mason continues to do well. Not so great this week, but the volume's there. And James Conner really liked this week against Washington. So these are guys that are going to get a heavy volume load. These are guys that I want to predict and get as close to 20 points each as I can. So if I can get close to 60 points from my 3 running backs, that gets me nearly halfway to that famous 130 point mark. So that way I've not got to make up too much from the other positions. So that's how I play the running backs. And then I try and balance that out with 6K wide receivers. So I'm happy to pay up at running back. And you're going to have to for the likes of Kamara, Kyron Williams. Jordan Mason is creeping up there in value, but he's still not quite there. So I still like him as a play. So the likes of Brandon Ayuk, who's obviously going to be in for, again, another big workload and volume this week. Drake London, I mean, you have to say the volume is there. The price point is there that is interesting to me. So he's in my pool this week. Someone like George Pickens as well. These guys have actually been falling in value. So they're in the area that I really like to match up with these sort of heavier investment running backs to stabilize my team. And that is how I'm going to be approaching cash again this week. Cannot believe I said Drake London is a cash play, but here we are. I just think he's getting more consistent. The last 2 weeks have been better, and I'm getting more confident just in terms of cash, not GPP.
Yeah, I think Mag's not being here, and you've mentioned Kyron Williams and Drake London in the same section. You're going to be off his Christmas card list, but yeah, just on Drake London, I think it's interesting. His slot usage has increased, and so has his performance, which is not saying it's a victory lap, but did say that was the only out for me for him to perform. So long may it continue for the London fans, the slot usage.
Yep, completely agree. And with that, we'll move straight on to our GPP lineup. So, Kev, this is where the big money is won. So how are you attacking your GPP lineups this week?
The guaranteed prize pool. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think a lot of people will gravitate towards Cardinals Commanders, massive high over-under on the week. And I think others will buy into the Andy Dalton revenge game narrative against the Bengals, and obviously how well Andy Dalton performed to get that win for the Panthers last week. So I think if you're attacking these games, think a little bit outside the box. If you're in deep contests, you don't have to go Andy Dalton, Deontay Johnson, and Jamar Chase. And if it's a hundo, for example, that's fine. If there's 100 people in your contest, if it's the Millie Maker, that on its own, if that's your stack, you're gonna have to get a little bit more creative. Maybe find someone else that fits that game to really make you unique and different to the majority of the field. Jordan Mason, he got a mention for you in cash. I think 6,700. That's his highest price of the year. He was cold AF last week. Disappointed many owners in all your leagues and in DFS. So I think he could be interesting for me, depending on the ownership and what the sort of the masses feel on him. But we do love a good revenge story, don't we? And Aaron Jones at 6,400. That's one that's super interesting to me, especially in a game where he's tied to the QB6 on the season. Sam Darnold, the guy that's had a lot of love for me recently. Thinking at wide receiver, players like Chris Godwin, I think, super safe and flexible. The Eagles have been poor against slot receivers, so I think that fits that game environment really well. He's someone that you've got bringbacks like Saquon Barkley on the other side, so really good in that respect. Jags wide receivers is another area. I think in Houston, they could have a potential lift off there. Although Trevor Lawrence is the QB for them, and finding the correct one could be really difficult and crucial for this. Look at the top 3 guys. Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, they both had 17 targets on the season. Gabe Davis had 16 targets on the season. So, yeah, I think Gabe Davis could be a sneaky guy that's going to be way less owned than those two if you're looking for something a little bit unique. And Roman Dunze, he feels to me as like an all-in move. 5,200, he's playing in the slot. Against the Rams, who, again, they've been absolutely terrible slot receivers. We saw Jawan Jennings play like in the Super Bowl, like Super Bowl MVP this week. So watch Keenan Allen's injury report. I think if Keenan Allen does play this week, I'd actually be tempted to stick Keenan Allen in this spot as someone that's coming off an injury as an old guy, which everyone hates the old guy. So yeah, that's one to definitely keep an eye on. Tight end, who actually cares? I mentioned a few guys in the cash part who we can throw a name into a hat and see what you pull out. I think he's getting to the territory now with them being so inconsistent. Them and defense and special teams are the last two spots I'm looking to fill. And actually, if it comes down to it and they're the last two, I might pick my defense before I pick my tight end, because it's just, there's not much to go off other than guesswork at this stage with how inconsistent it's been. And then my favourite part, the defense and special teams. I've actually been striking gold this season on defense. Like Vikings again got another shout out, and there's someone that I'm interested in again at 2,900 in Lambeau. They're the only defense I think to have 5 sacks in each game. It's going to be tricky. It's a road division game against bitter rivals. Malik Willis is someone that's unexposed as such. There's not a lot of tape on him, and I think Matt LaFleur's been building a really unique game plan for him. So I'm probably actually more confident if Jordan Love's back on the Vikings, but yeah, you're just paying down for me in GPPs. Other teams that stand out, Jets. The Broncos at the Jets, 2,500s on the short list, just with how good the defense has been for the Broncos. I think they had a decent win this week. I'm not sure against who. And the Chargers at 2,600. They're playing KC, which notoriously they play Pat Mahomes really well. It's quite interesting now. The Chargers' best defensive player is now banned for that game. I mean, plenty of controversy surrounding the refs and the Chiefs. It's pretty embarrassing right now.
Yeah, Paul Derwin James. I mean, the Chiefs are just the referees are just loving the Chiefs right now. They want that three-peat so bad. But absolute standouts from that, Kev. Love the defense. You are our defense expert, and yeah, I was playing the Vikings everywhere this week to the tune of cashing in everywhere in my cash game. So absolutely love that shout. Absolutely love Aaron Jones, 6,400 revenge game narrative. I think this week is a week that I'll come on to possibly fading Justin Jefferson in Lambeau. I think he'll be popular. So I like the fact that if I go for Aaron Jones, it's just getting different as someone, a part of that offense that's doing well. But it's not going to be Aaron Jones like the masses will be on. And then Roma Dunze, 5,200. Someone that, yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to have a lot of shares of him this week in DFS at that price. I think the upside is there. Absolutely love Caleb Williams right now. So, again, I will come on to him again. Ooh. So this week, obviously last week, I stated about the high over under games. If you've played that sort of way through the first 3 weeks, you've been pretty disappointed with the games that really were expected to go off, just haven't been going off. So the popular stacks in them games have not been winning you the money this, in GPP through the first 3 weeks. So what I've been doing this week is studying the Millie Maker, looking at the winning lineup for the past 3 weeks, and especially this week. It's just ways of getting different to the consensus and clever ways. So this week, the guy had the Darnold Jefferson stack, which a lot of people, were in on, especially you, Kev, with picking Darnold this week or last week. But the interesting thing for me was there was no bring back, and I think so far this season you've not had to have a bring back, and I don't think the winning lineups have always had bring backs on the other side, just because I think we're not seeing these typical shootouts that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of games like the Vikings one where, 34-7 against the Texans. They've just been one-sided. You think of the Saints game against the Cowboys, just absolute whipping by the one team. We're not seeing these big over-under scores shootouts. So I don't think you necessarily have to have that bring back on the other side as a way of getting different, because everybody thinks that, right, I'll get 2 on one side, I'll get 1 on the other side. But I just don't think you have to do that. I think offense at the minute is lagging massively behind defense. That could change. Hopefully it will. But at the minute, I think that's an interesting way of not having to have a bring back the other side. Massa's played Jordan Mason this week, including myself. Really disappointed. But the Millie Maker winner was on Kyron, and Kyron obviously went off as well, especially in the second half with the 3 touchdowns, the Rams 3 touchdowns. He was more expensive, but I think a way he got different, you know, by not having Jordan Mason was having Kyron on the other side of the game. So that was interesting. He paid up at defense, which I think is interesting. Another way of getting different, because most people just, you know, choose that as almost the final play and they pay down. But I think this year you've seen with the likes of the Vikings and some of the others, it's actually been worth paying up for defense, especially when you factor in, you mentioned the tight end position has been woeful, and we're not getting spike games from the tight end position other than Dallas Goedert, who was in his lineup this week. So I think that's a really interesting way of getting different. And then the last bit is leaving some cash available to spend. So most people want to see their 50K spend, and they want to spend every single last dollar that they can squeeze into the lineup. But if you look back at winning lineups throughout the years, they're people that leave money on the table as a way, again, of just getting different and not spending every last penny. So that's just an interesting strategy, looking at the Millie Maker winners of the big tournaments this week. Then just a couple of plays that I like. Rashid Shaheed, 5,500. I'm saying don't be afraid. He had 5 targets. There was obviously 0. He goosed 0 receptions, but 1 was just ridiculous. Should have caught it. Would have been a long touchdown play. That is all it takes, literally, at 5,500. A big bomb touchdown, and he pays off for you. Xavier Legette, sneaky. I think 4,800 versus Cincinnati. Dalton will be serving. Revenge game narrative. Someone cheap to fit in there to help balance out the more expensive spends. And then if you're paying down at quarterback, Andy Dalton, 5,300, I think is great. He's going to be slinging it, no fear. He's got nothing to lose. Revenge game, such a cheap price at home. Justin Fields, 5,500 as well against Indy. Indy defense is not great right now. I think Justin Fields, there's not a lot of people on him, so I think that's at that price is really interesting. Yeah, and as I mentioned, I'm fading Justin Jefferson. Obviously, could come back to bite me. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL, but I think just at Lambeau Field, I think that's a really tough place to go, and he's going to be very popular.
Yeah, I love the thought process of looking at the Millie Maker and sort of taking things. I think leaving cash on the table is a really good one, because it's like tipping the rest of the field that I'm actually going to win some money, and you can. I'll do it without spending full whack as well. I think that's spot on. And then the plays like Rashid Shaheed, he was a guy I was in on last week and it felt flat on my face. Doing things that are uncomfortable is massive in GPP. It doesn't always work out. Like obviously Shaheed last week was something I was comfortable with that didn't, but other weeks there'll be plays where you think, that I don't want to do it because I'm not big on that player, but in that correct situation, it can really shine. So players like Legette, who I'm not in on, if you're trying to tell a story of an Andy Dalton, maybe he's the move to go over Deontay to get different in certain aspects. So I really like what you covered there, Ali. Well done.
He's got to embrace the fear, Kev. Embrace the fear. Back on Shaheed again this week. Talking of fear, we'll move on to the wildcard picks. So, yeah, these are guys that maybe a lot of people will not be in on, but these are going to be sneaky boom possibility this week. And my pick was perfect last week. So we're going 2 for 2. Kev, who is your breakout pick this week?
Oh, it's a human torch, Greg Dortch. Like, just that we have to speak about this guy. His ceiling's absolutely terrible, but you know what? I think it's going to happen. You know, all he needs is a touchdown. It's gonna pay off at 4,300. Look, they're playing Washington, who, when you see what they've done against slot receivers, and there's a bit of context here. Godwin was one of them that went off. Neighbors was another. You know, like pretty decent players this season. But even Andre Yashavas had a good outing on Monday Night Football against them. Yeah, I think Human Torch, it's time to shine for him, 4,300. And my last thought is this type of spot. Fuck Michael Wilson.
Oh, there's only one name I had to select when I saw that on the show sheet, Kev. So I'm going for Michael Wilson. I'm saying screw your Human Torch. We're going Michael Wilson at cheaper against the Washington Commanders. The absolute stud, Michael Wilson. I like to remind you on every show that I can. Yeah, just had another good week this week. 9 targets, 8 catches against Detroit. And yeah, I just think getting different from Marvin Harrison Jr. I like both of these picks, but I don't like the fact that you said fuck Michael Wilson because he's a stud and we love Michael Wilson. But the same thought process. These two guys, it could be one of these two guys that pay off big time at these cheap price. And then we better mention Mags because he's not with us. He's deserted us tonight. But I mean, he's buttering me up a little bit because he's gone for Bucky Irving, 5,300 against your Eagles, Kev. I like the play. I think obviously what Coach Bowl says, and he is very, very to the point. If he says something, he's not bullshitting. I think you'll see Bucky Irving get more usage this week. I can't say the offense is going to look great because it didn't look great last week when it should have done against the Broncos, but against the Eagles, who were struggling themselves on defense, 5,300, I think is a decent play. I think some of the field will be in on Bucky Irving, but I think you need to get on him now before the usage actually happens. So I think this is a smart play by Mags. Your thoughts, Kev, on Bucky Irving?
I mean, just this whole segment of the show has been one of the worst of all time. We've got Michael Wilson mentioned on there. We've got a Bucks player mentioned on there, and it's against the Eagles. Like, it couldn't have gone any worse. But I think, first of all, Michael Wilson, similar thought process to me, having an ancillary piece in that game. And then Bucky Irving, we said on the Dime Show, Rashad White is simply red. So, but there's major warning signs there. Bucky Irving's deserved a chance. Eagles defense maybe not the best to take on with how they looked after Kamara, but I think against the Bucs, you got to be thinking stop Chris Godwin, Mike Evans first of all. So maybe it opens up some work for Irving if he can get it to a 50-50 or slightly in his favor. Yeah, of course he can get a touchdown and hit 15-20 points. So really, really interesting pick despite it being against my Go Birds.
Love that. We'll move on to the star picks. This is the most important section where this is our charity bet for the season, where I'm not doing very well. I think the standings are Kev, you've taken 2 of the weeks. Mags has taken 1. I'm giving you boys a head start. So the comeback is truly on. So Kev, who is your star pick this week? Someone where we want to see at least a 3 times multiplier, considering what their price tag is. So, Kev, I hate to say it, but I love your pick.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to pick first this week, and the other 2 guys that you both picked, you and Mags, were on the list. And I could have actually predicted yours, Alec, because I'm a smart guy and I know how you work. But I went for Jaden Daniels, 6,500 at the Cardinals. I waited to see what happened on Monday Night Football because I was torn between him and Mag's selection, if I'm honest. And look, he was unbelievable on Monday Night Football. His passing tree as such was fantastic graphic to see on Next Gen Stats from NFL.com. Someone that I think they're going to be on the road, they're going to be playing from behind. Imagine the Cardinals going in as favourites, and yeah, it's what sort of game script do you want it to be? Do you want it to be one where he's from behind and passing and it's opening up? Or do you want him to shoot out to big lead with some rushing touchdowns and it sort of be a back and forth game? So I think there's different ways it can go for him to still achieve a good mark. And everyone knows I love Jane Daniels, so I thought it'd be nice to stick him on as a star pick and hopefully keep me at the top of the tree.
I hope he fails this week, Kev, because it's a double whammy to you because you love him so much.
It'd be awful.
But yeah, no, absolutely love that pick. My pick this week is Caleb Williams. Really like what I saw from Caleb Williams in terms of the passing volume, the passing attempts this week for Chicago. Much cheaper at 5,600 at home against the Rams, who are struggling with so many defensive injuries. I just think we could see this offense really start to go off this week. So yeah, I'm in on Caleb Williams. I needed a cheaper option, but someone that could go off. I want to see a similar scoreline to what he put up this week. I think is easily in the realms of possibility. The Rams are, although they're so damn injured, you just know that Sean McVay is going to be able to score some points with Stafford. So I just think that environment at that price, I think he's got the ability to 4x his value. So Caleb Williams is my pick this week. Mags has gone for the other layup, which is Kyler Murray, 6,800. So the most expensive of our quarterbacks on the slate, at home to the Washington Commanders. I think this is the matchup. This is the game where everybody's going to be in on for DFS. But for this segment, it doesn't matter. All we're concentrating on is those points. I just think he's just primed to just explode in this game. I'd love to see both Daniels and Kyler Murray, two quarterbacks that we both love, just go off and have a shootout. So the offense stalled second half of this week's matchup, but I think they're going to get it back together. And I mean, who better to get things back on track than against the Washington Commanders? Jamar Chase did it this week with Burrow. Kyler Murray's going to do it this week. So love that pick. What's your thoughts on the three this week, Kev? Obviously, you're going to say that you're the favourite, but all three to me are looking pretty strong.
Strong picks. Look, I think it's obviously the name of the game is the multiplier, and it's a great shot with Caleb because if he hits 30 points, that's going to help him massively in the seasonal standings with the deficit. And look, we've touted up Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen. The Rams haven't been stopping much in the past game, so I think that's a fab shout. And yeah, Kyler Murray was the other guy that I was considering. So I kind of, now that we've seen Mags's pick, well, I've seen it obviously on the show sheet that we don't have for the audience. They don't know about that. But now that he's picked Kyler Murray, I think the game script I want is Cardinals bust out to a quick lead. It's all James Conner, and then Jay Daniels steps in. But it's going to be interesting for us three to watch it this weekend. You've got your boy Caleb Williams in the early slate, and then we've got the matchup in the late slate. So you'll know where you stand early on, and then you'll be just hoping that it's a big struggle offensively.
Yeah, I think that adds an element of fun to it. A bit like last week, I was on the negative end of the matchup where me and Mags both had a player from the same team. I had Jordan Mason, he had Brock Purdy. The game script didn't go in my favor. Brock Purdy was the one that was slinging touchdowns to Juwan Jennings. And shout out to you, Kev. You didn't actually win on the week, but I think you deserve to win with your pick of Sam Darnold, someone that I had concerns about against a decent Houston Texans defense. Well, wow, what a performance from Darnold. 5.5K, 4.23 times, and it still didn't take the number one spot this week. You must be absolutely gutted with that.
Fuming because if CJ Stroud was a decent QB, there'd have been a bit more back and forth, a bit more passing volume there. And also Sam Darnold got an injury on one of the sacks or a late hit or something. So that took away his rushing upside on this game. So yeah, gutted, but Mags deserved it. He got a better multiplier begrudgingly.
He did. I just love the picture of Darnold and CJ Stroud in the middle after the game. Like CJ Stroud condole on him saying, "Never mind, mate. Keep it together." Absolutely perfect it was. But yeah, with that does end tonight's show. So thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow and subscribe on X and YouTube at Wildcard DFS and at Fantasy Wildcard. And yes, join us for our show every single Wednesday of the season. Thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again soon.